Okay, we're back. We're back again. Time for some Type 40, extra Type 40 here, exclusively on the Spacebook channel with me, Dan Hadley, Birmingham's king of the geeks, and a call box. Who's in the call box this time? Who's calling? I ask you, who's calling? Well, it's these two. I've got Charlotte Shields and I've got Ian David Diaz here. We've come here for a bit of a catch up, haven't we?
Yeah.
well, Ian's come to recover from the heat.
Oh dear. And Charlatan, you thought he was a miserable old goat. So Ian, what's the matter, mate? What's been getting to you?
Nothing. I just it's just the heat and also the subject matter. But there you go. Yeah. So
you've had a rough day at work as well, haven't you? You can come and chill out with us and talk about something that's not going to make you angry. We're going to talk about Doctor Who. What's not to love?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, before we get into that, this is just a reminder. Type 40 Extra, what's Type 40 Extra? Well, it's our before show, after show, and in between show to the podcasts and live streams that we put out here on the Spacebook channel for you to interact with and to enjoy. And yet to get into conversations with us about all things Doctor Who in this 60th anniversary year. And a big news story broke last week, and we didn't get the time that we thought we had to incorporate into the last Type 40 live stream, but Ian couldn't make that one anyway. So fortunately for him, we're going to talk about it on this show instead.
I thought I missed it. Yeah.
Before we do, well, this is bound to get you back in a happier place sooner rather than later. This is our TARDIS. This is in Newport in Wales on Acacia Avenue, and this is a lovely painted TARDIS there with a scarf all of its own. What do you think about this?
It's nice, but I wonder what it's for though. Is it a toilet or is it what is it? Because it's got like that's a door, obviously, with the key.
Yeah, and there's a lock, isn't there? So it's obviously used for something.
And also, there's a little square there painted with the scarf thing. So I wonder what that is as well. So it's interesting.
It could be.
I don't know what it is.
It could be some sort of portable power relay hub thing. Because I don't think it would be an original police box that they've salvaged. It doesn't look like one, does it? There's vents along the top. It looks like it's a thing of purpose, just like you say, and that it's been locked for the safety of general people in the area.
I don't know what it is, but it looks nice. It looks like a bit like the TARDIS. Kind of
it's seen as a bit of a local landmark, and so as I understand it, it was falling to rack and ruin. It looked quite nasty, or dank and grey and murky, Charlotte. So the residents all got together, and I think it was their idea to paint it up like this.
Yeah,
it's lovely. Like just to have a bit of a community thing, like you said, and to have the scarf like that. It's a creative way to have a scarf as well. It's not just the usual way we see it.
Yeah, it's nice.
It would appeal to non-Doctor Who fans as well, I think. But this is what I like to do here, to scroll the view screen across the Whoniverse and pick up on rando bits of stuff that pop up and the things that people do too, because I think we talk a lot, don't we, when we speak to people from overseas in particular, about the fact that Doctor Who is part of our cultural heritage, and it's kind of, even at a time like now, when its popularity is kind of in the toilet bowl, it's still everywhere, and little emblems like this are dotted around all over the country, and I find this sort of thing quite reassuring, Charlotte. I do.
Oh no, I always love it. It's like whenever we have like sometimes the New Year fireworks and little things like that, and they have little Doctor Who hints now and again in that, which is always nice. Like the odd TARDIS noise. I always enjoy seeing that.
Hearing it.
Yeah, seeing it as part of the display and hearing it.
Okay.
But it's not just icons like that are out on the streets. So are the living and breathing ones. Have you seen this?
Oh my God, I'm a big fan. Thank you.
All right, good to see you.
Come on, man. Nice to meet you, mate.
All the best. Take care.
That's Doctor Who. I just met Doctor Who. Stop playing with me, bro. This is the type of places we be at. We meet Doctor Who. What are you doing?
I had to play that again. I love that bloke.
It's my next door neighbour.
He looks I think it's in London. I can tell you that for certain. But it made me laugh so much when I played it last week. This guy, we meet Doctor Who. We meet Doctor Who. It's like real social currency there. And when people say, can David Tennant really bring it back? I think he already has, hasn't he? I'm not sure that guy realizes there's been other Doctor Who's since.
Probably doesn't.
Probably doesn't know. But yeah, enough about him. Let's talk about her for a while. And this one, it's a bit like that movie. I don't know if you've seen it, Ian, Red Dawn, because we've got a classic cast member. Oh, stop groaning already. A classic cast member, a British entertainment stalwart, Ian. And it's fair to say, possibly the most derided companion of all time, up until 2018. Sorry, Ryan. Well, she's storming back to Doctor Who for Series 14, and it's Bonnie Langford is back in the TARDIS. So there's no question mark required about this, about who's back next, and is it possibly going to happen? This dropped last week. It was confirmed after heavy speculation, Charlotte, because Bonnie Langford had been spotted on location, or at least lots of people in the fan base making content and just commenting on Twitter and things like that were convinced that they'd seen her. I must admit, I sort of went, oh yeah, you've seen somebody with ginger hair. We've heard it all before, but no, it's true. She's back, and this is Melanie Bush, of course. She's back once again, played by the delightful TV and theatre star Bonnie Langford. And yes, so this is obviously depending on how you feel about 82 is probably going to dictate to a certain extent, Ian, how you feel about this news. Because it's fair to say it's not for everyone. And it was right in the midst of Colin Baker's era, of course, and the dreaded the hiatus. It was off screen for 18 months that Bonnie Langford was cast in the role as Melanie Bush. Now, I don't know if you remember, Ian, but I remember this vividly because I was at high school at the time, and Doctor Who was already in trouble, very publicly in trouble. And being a fan of Doctor Who was the kind of thing that would, at this point, you would get the piss taken out of you quite mercilessly. And then they go and cast Bonnie Langford in a blaze of publicity. We got all these pictures and things like that. So for years, this kind of tormented fans. It was John Nathan Turner's idea, and it set him at odds with members of his own production team back then in 1985. And one, the unofficial advisor on the show, just walked completely, pretty much over this. But she's back now. So what do you think? It's been 36 years since Bonnie Langford left Doctor Who. Has that been enough time? Has she done enough in between, Ian, for you to sort of welcome her back with kind of half open arms?
Oh, you're asking me?
Yeah.
I thought you were asking. Well, quite frankly, I don't really care. I mean, I never liked her. Never liked that era of Doctor Who. Didn't like Colin Baker. Although I did, when I watched it again, I did like some of his episodes. But quite frankly, he wasn't. I just thought he wasn't a very good Doctor. And then that followed on after with what's his name, Sylvester McCoy, and she's awful. She was awful in the show, and I don't understand this move at all. I don't understand why they're bringing her back at all. It makes no odds to me. And quite a lot of Doctor Who fans, I reckon, doesn't make any odds to them either. But that's my take on it. I really don't understand why they've literally circled her to come back at all. But
there's no doubt.
It's just me, innit? It's just again, I hate to sound negative, but unfortunately, this new reiteration of Doctor Who is not giving stuff that I really want to see. None of the stuff they've been promoting so far has got me excited at all. I mean, this is
bound to get you on the wrong side of Bonnie Langford. It truly is. She's not going to.
She's going to scream and scream and scream, is she? She's not going to like this. But you've met Bonnie Langford. You had a really positive interaction with her. She was very very kind to you, wasn't she? Yeah, she's. I mean, as I said, she's. I mean, not taking anything away from the actual person. Yeah. I just don't understand why they've chosen this. Well, I do understand because of today's politics, why she's been brought back. I mean, there are other companions or assistants, or whatever you want to call it, they could have brought back, but circling Bonnie Langford, I really don't understand the logic behind it at all.
What would re-employing Bonnie Langford, who's an established character within the series, as you said, she played this character not for a great length of time. It was just 20
and she was awful when she was playing. She was loud. She was acting like she was in a panto. Then again, the show did go that way a bit. Well,
it was a very earnest performance by somebody who I don't think she'd mind me saying this, had at the time more of a background in theatre. So it was a very particular, it was a theatrical kind of performance. And whilst I wouldn't say that she didn't seem to know what show she was in, Charlotte, I did get the impression that the production team had sort of pushed it in, just like they would with Sylvester McCoy a year later, and left her to sort of to swim instinctively with whatever material they threw at her. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, that whole era had an issue with companions and what they were meant to be in the show. Like Perry had the similar, I think, fate of what she meant to be, what's her sort of vision in the show. Like, compared to the likes of, I know this is a big comparison, but compared to like Sarah Jane and Joe Grant and some of the Barbara Ian, they all had a very precise character and background. And like you could tell they planned out a little bit, or it felt like that at least. They'd planned a bit out what they're going to do in the show. Whereas when it got to the 80s, it really felt like, let's just stick a companion in. That's the vibe I've always got. I got it with Perry, definitely got it with the bits I've seen of Bonnie's, Mel's character. They were sort of just left, like you said, to sort of just, you're an actress, you can almost find the character yourself. And it's like, no, you need to give them a bit of direction as well. A bit of story beats that they can then play with. And I just felt like that era wasn't very good at doing that.
It was a year in between Bonnie being cast, well over a year, in fact, in between her being cast and actually appearing on screen. So this hung over the show a little bit like a cloud, because I wouldn't say that Bonnie Langford was an unpopular person. It just seemed like at a time when Doctor Who its future was so in doubt that this was not just a left field pick, but a really ill-advised one.
But it was stunt casting, wasn't it? You said that, and I think it was very much that.
I wouldn't go so far as to say it was stunt casting, but Nathan Turner cast somebody who already had a very public persona. Bonnie Langford had been on Opportunity Knocks in 1970, so when she was very young, when she was a child. She'd appeared in a film called Bugsy Malone in 1976, again as a child, and in 1978 was part of this really quite high-profile children's drama called Just William, which adapted all these popular children's books, and she played a nasty little character, really, with a terrible catchphrase and a high-pitched voice, even more high-pitched than Bonnie's natural voice was at the time. So it was that persona that she brought to this as sort of baggage, in the same way that Peter Davison brought the baggage from More Creatures. But of course, that was nowhere near as divisive, because people liked Tristan because he was a very likable, amiable, average kind of guy. Whereas everybody Bonnie Langford had ever played had been kind of annoying.
Very annoying.
But yes, she was. I mean, this is the thing. I mean, in this, I can't see how this is a political move. I can't see how this is part of current day, when this is an established character. Played by a performer who's always played her.
Yeah, well, hopefully they're going to do something good with her, because, as I said, out of every companion that the Doctors had in Classic, I wouldn't have gone for Bonnie Langford. I think Bonnie Langford's performance in, mind you, that I only saw a couple of episodes with her in it, and I just said to myself, that is it. Doctor Who is done. I remember watching, the Sylvester McCoy episode, one of the first one, and then the second one. I was thinking to myself, this is done. This is just so awful. You know, everything about Doctor Who now is gone. It's just turned into a pantomime. And she was part of that.
There was that tone then, Charlotte. I mean, I don't know if you found this too when you've rewatched or when you've come across these all these years later. It did have that kind of tone to it, and they'd been told. To be fair, they'd been told to lighten up, but this was, as I say, this was quite an extreme. This was quite an extreme move. But I'm drawn to what you said a moment ago, Charlotte, because with the companions in this era, you're right, they didn't follow through at all with the scripts. But when this was announced, when Bonnie was announced as originally joining the cast, they gave her this whole spiel, how her name was Melanie Bush, and she was from Pease Pottage in Sussex, and she was a computer programmer, and they had this blurb, this publicity blurb of who she was meant to be. But when she was on screen, they didn't really dip into that barely at all. And you could say that's always been the case with the companions, that they start off with noble intentions and then go nowhere with it. But it was far more with Mel. You would never think she was a computer programmer. She uses the word modem about 3 times. That's kind of that's the limit.
I would disagree, because I mentioned quite a few in Classic. And that's why I don't like sometimes when people do sort of bash classics. I know the companions weren't like the modern companions. I'm like, no, actually look at some of the classic companions properly. They had backgrounds, they had jobs, they had relationships. If it is Ian and Barbara, they knew each other. You could get that from that first story. So you could, when they wanted to, they could actually really well flesh out companions. I just think it just, like I said, in the 80s and some of the other ones, Ace was sort of the show was the change of, oh no, now they're really trying to do something with a companion again. But before that, it was just like this sort of, they're there because the Doctor needs one vibe. But I can see why they've done this, because Russell has done this twice before. He did it with Sarah Jane. He did it with Joe Grant. And I think he knew very much that people watching it my age at the time, that those companions, they were known as names, but we didn't know them. We didn't know them as proper characters yet.
So, or maybe the case is that there was nothing left, because the previous incarnation of Doctor used the companions, didn't they, in the last episode before
in
she changed? Yeah, in Jodie's one. So maybe she's. I mean, who else is left? That's the question. Maybe you were onto something there.
If you remember, Bonnie Langford did appear very, very briefly as Mel in The Power of the Doctor, that last episode of Jodie Whittaker. I can understand why you may have scrubbed it from your memory. It was pretty terrible. All ends up. Bonnie Langford was in there playing Mel.
Yeah, she was.
And she was on screen for a split second, which, putting aside the fact that the character of Mel was unpopular then, I'd say then she went through a period of being divisive. Now, my belief is that the character's in from the cold, in the way that Bonnie Langford is sort of in from the cold, and people sort of respect her and understand her a little bit more and appreciate her because she's been around. They appreciate her and they respect her, I think, partly because she's been around for so long, and partly because of some of the things that she's been in over the last 10 to 12 years. But I'll come to that in a moment. But when she was on screen on this, all she really did was sit in a chair, nod a head, and smile.
She didn't get any dialogue, I don't think.
That is same thing with Ian as well.
That is a cameo. I mean, at least he got a few lines, and obviously William Russell is considerably older than Bonnie Langford, and not in the best of health. So that was appropriate. And I suppose if anybody had to speak in that scene, it's right that it was Ian Chesterton. But again, I would rather them. Chris Chibnall. Yeah, I got the impression that he was trying to sort of have his cake and eat it, really, by including those characters. I'd rather have seen.
It was a good idea, though, wasn't it?
A reasonable idea. Yeah,
I thought it was a good idea.
In that instance, I think his heart was in the right place.
Yeah,
and it could have set some of this off. I mean, how my feeling about it, Ian, is you ask why her, and I think that if they're sensible about it, if they're looking for something unique that only Mel could potentially be, or that she'd be a good aspect to come at, it would be that background in computer programming and the fact that which we never saw on screen, Charlotte, but we've only got their word for it. So if she was a computer programmer before, then she left Earth. She's now obviously back on Earth. So presumably she's picked up that career path and that skill set, and she's now working in. I hope she's not working in IT. I would hope it would be different.
A bit more creative.
But in that scene, in the companion sort of support network scene that we saw at the end of The Power of the Doctor, Kate Stewart did mention, I could be recruiting some of you for unit. And they're not going to recruit, with the best one in the world, they're not going to recruit Ian Chesterton, are they? The man is 90.
He's not.
And Joe Grant, Jo Jones is off doing her own thing. Who would be the ideal person to recruit in? I think it probably would be Melanie Bush, if she's gone back to technology and science.
What's that behind her, though?
We know that Unit, we'll come to that in a moment. We know that Unit has scientific advisors, and so she could be the latest one. That's how I
wouldn't be surprised. Wouldn't be surprised at all that they'll put her back in there and she's part of Unit and stuff like that. That'd be quite cool. But as I said, if I was in charge of Doctor Who, she'd be the last person I'd think about coming back from the. I
think you've got to also think who's left, who's earthbound, who hasn't had like a fate that we can't really go.
To be fair, Mel wasn't earthbound when we last saw her either. But a lot can happen in 30 years, can't it?
Like I said, Russell's done this before, and I really think he did really good with Sarah Jane. School Reunion is brilliant, because I remember watching that for the first time. I knew Sarah Jane as a name. I knew she was a cat. She was an ex-companion, but I didn't watch her episode, so I didn't have the context. And within one episode, I got it. I understood. This is why she's so special to the fan base, why her name is sort of quoted and seen as the main companion to compare to. And that was a mixture of course, the performance, but the writing. I think they handled it with a very cleverness of, you got that hint of she's moved on, but there's still a bit of I don't know.
Yeah, they told a story, and a precedent has been set, and therefore, I think so. The door is open for them to do this again. And now that Doctor Who's obviously it's been back on now for the best part of 2 decades, I think people will accept these characters. And okay, I wouldn't say we're starting from scratch with younger viewers again, but it's not far off. If the script is written in such a way that it's just obvious that the Doctor knows her and they used to travel together, I think people generally know enough about the format of Doctor Who. Yeah, he travels with these people, and then he doesn't, and he meets some of them again, some of them he doesn't, and it's that simple. That precedent has been set. In this first promo picture that we've got, I mean, not only does Bonnie look sensational, 58 years of age, and yeah, she looks, I know, bright and vibrant and as energetic as ever. I think she is a real star, Bonnie Langford. So it's lovely to see her back there. But it does seem to me, Ian, that this is proof that she is part of a new setup with UNIT somewhere along the line there, because that set that she's on, that standing set, I believe it is this place, which we had a look at this a few months ago. So this was a drone shot of the filming of. So I don't know what they were filming, because I think it was around September last year that we got a shot of this helipad, this unit helipad. So that's there, and that definitely looks like the same set to me. Look, they've got the arrows there along towards the top of the panel,
and the colours match. It's orange, isn't it? The colours match.
So it would seem to me, and of course we've got this tag thing on Mel's arm, which I didn't notice at first, but obviously that's an electronic device of some sort. Now, does that allow her to breathe atmosphere, or in some sort of way? Is it a scientific device, or is it a tag? You know, have they broken Mel out of prison? Is she guilty of some sort of technological fraud? But UNIT needed her that badly that they put on a tag, and she's under house arrest, and she can only go within a certain period. It seems unlikely, but you never know.
Could be like a ID, like a way to get in and out of the building.
Nah, it would be something as simple as like a badge or a card. Whatever.
I don't know. Like sometimes they like to over-design stuff.
No, I reckon that's something to do with, as Dan says, something to do with what the stories that they created around her. I'm assuming they created a story around Mel. So I mean, is this? Sorry, I'm confused. This is going to be part of Ncuti's Doctor, or is this part of David Tennant's Doctor?
Well, this is part of. Well, this is the thing. This is part of series 14, which they are filming. They're still filming that at the moment. Now, the episodes that have been filming over the last few days, as of recording, are believed to be the 2-part season finale. So that's what's been going on. Whether they're being shot in sequence or not, obviously, generally speaking, they've tended not to be in. So that doesn't mean that filming's about to end. I understand that it's only going to run until later in the summer. So they are past the halfway point. But yeah, that's what's been going on. And there she was on location there, and she was seen running around with Ncuti Gatwa. And
so she is part of Ncuti then.
Apparently, yeah. But I've heard. Well, I heard several months ago actually that Bonnie Langford had been seen on location last year, and that helipad shot. That was from around last autumn. So could it be? I believe that Bonnie Langford, that we're only being told about this now with the nice glossy publicity photo. I think that Bonnie Langford is actually in the trilogy of anniversary specials later this year. The 14th Doctor. I think we'll see her there. It's just that she wasn't filming in public, so they've been able to keep it a secret. So that's what I think is likely.
Well, maybe.
What do you think, Charlotte? Maybe,
who knows?
It would make sense. Because I think even though I love Dave the Doctor, I understand how classic fans felt left out in that special. It was very New Who focused. And I think Russell probably knew, I know it was Moffat's, but Russell's very close to Moffat. He probably was seeing some of that fan stuff back for the 50th. So if he's got any sort of cleverness about him, he would make sure the 60th does have classic in some way. And it should, to be honest, like it shouldn't just be a celebration of New Who. It shouldn't just be a celebration of Russell's stuff. It should be a celebration of 60 years. So it would make sense. And like I said, I would really love to see how he would write a new batch of classic companions coming back.
And for all that these episodes in the autumn are 60th anniversary specials, they're a celebration. It's also a chance for them to seed what can come in the next era, to introduce elements to it very gradually to the general audience, because obviously this is going to be as blockbuster as Doctor Who has been probably since the day of the Doctor, or maybe Deep Breath, to be fair. It's approached blockbuster status since Day of the Doctor, just not often. So it's gonna be a big deal, generally speaking. And so they can put pieces on the board even if they don't make big plays with them. I mean, there's also rumours that Ruth Madeley's character will be seen after the trilogy as well, so they could carry her through, just as they could carry Mel through. And I think the British public, generally speaking, like her and are familiar with her now. Again, multiple generations of people, partly because of her role on EastEnders. Ian, did you? Because this was the role, wasn't it, that made people sort of sit up and realise that she could act when she played Carmel on EastEnders for about 3 years.
I mean, you got the feeling. Of course, she can act. She's an actress. She was in Just William. I thought she was brilliant in Just William, personally. But that's how she got started. But
you know what it's like, mate. People used to confuse, didn't they? They confused if somebody was playing an annoying character on TV. The assumption years ago used to be that that was them.
Yeah.
And people didn't accept that they were actors. They were playing parts. So generally speaking, I think the population were surprised by how good she was in EastEnders.
The thing is though, she is a good actress, right? Because as I said, I've seen her in other stuff other than Doctor Who. But the reason why she was so bad in Doctor Who is because nobody was directing her. Nobody was focusing on her character and saying how she should be. She was given no direction whatsoever. You can tell by watching the show. She was shouting her lines at one point. She was overacting in other points and stuff like that. And that's what the director's there for, to bring down that performance and say, you should be doing this, or maybe saying this line needs this, so you should be portraying it as this. Do you know what I mean? But you can tell at that moment in time, Doctor Who was dying, right? You can tell after Colin left, through the controversy, and then they gave it to Sylvester McCoy. You can tell nobody cared about Doctor Who. Towards the ending of Sylvester Stallone's tenure, they started writing some really good stories, and it got slightly better, but it was too late. It was absolutely too late. The lack of care from Collins to Sylvester's was absolutely extraordinary when it came to Doctor Who, a show that is crazy.
My attitude towards it, Ian, is I used to, when I was a kid, I used to make a lot of excuses for it, and but it was very much unloved, and the people working on it, certainly by the end of McCoy stuff, were trying their best. They had a plan, and it was working, but their plans were, I wouldn't say they were so big, but they were higher concept. And they were always sort of fighting they were swimming upstream, if you like. They were swimming against the tide.
I think the BBC saw it as an embarrassment. Doctor Who as an embarrassment.
Yeah, they did. They wanted rid of it, mate.
Yeah.
They were looking for an excuse,
Yes, absolutely.
But I would say as well, I think, I know what you mean by the public, but I think with her Big Finish stuff, that proved to a lot of Doctor Who fans. Actually, no, if you give her good material, if you actually write her properly, because I've not listened to 10 ton of her stuff on Big Finish, but I have listened to some of her and Colin together, and it's a marked difference. You can really see, oh no, this is what Mel probably was meant to be.
You could ask yourself the question, okay, right? as Charlotte has just said, Doctor Who fans listen to Big Finish, and Doctor Who fans know her from the past. But how much Doctor Who fans exist today now, and is she still remembered that people will appreciate her in this new iteration of Doctor Who? We can only. Yeah, it's a good question.
I think
we'll
I think
I
that's
think
a
we
really
can only
good
have faith.
question.
We can only have faith in the script writing, can't we, Charlotte? That Russell or whoever's writing those, if it is the finale, that it will be Russell almost certainly. That this guy has a grasp of the mechanics of storytelling, and I maintain that man writes characters like nobody else on British TV. So if he can't do it, I don't see who can.
No, there are a lot of good. That's bad.
No, I know that.
There's a lot of good screenwriters that can write good stuff.
I know. I didn't say they weren't, but he is, in my view, he is right up there. It's him, and it's Jimmy McGovern, and Paul Abbott. Right.
I don't know. There are some really good screenwriters now. I mean, some of the stuff I've seen on TV, some of the stuff is really good. Like British stuff, some of the stuff. But I mean, you may be right. I mean, you're mentioning obviously the ones that are known, like Jamie McGovern and Russell T and stuff like that. But there are up and coming writers that are showing their mettle on
Oh
TV
yeah,
stuff.
and there's other Doctor Who people like Toby Whithouse.
Yeah,
I think I've been human. I love that show. I think that's incredible writing, some of that stuff.
And there's a reason why he hasn't been anywhere near Doctor Who for several years, isn't it? Because it's not a reflection on him. It's because they didn't seem to want to work with him anymore. So I dare say he's gone off, and he's probably better than he ever was when he was on Doctor Who. He's probably grown in the same way that they have. But
and I was going to say, I think Ian's right. Like, there's this idea of how much of a pull, how much of actually wow, it's Mel. Is there actually here? But I think if she's here for 1 or 2 episodes, that's perfect, because then you don't need to worry about that so much. It would be enough of a thing of just if you put enough publicity out for 1 or 2 weeks, Mel's back and she's got a self-contained story, and there's good enough writing, we hope, to back it up.
Here's a question for you. For 10 years now, maybe 10, 11 years now, we've been given the characters of Kate Stewart and Osgood, played by Ingrid Oliver and Gemma Redgrave. So they've been on screen for a fairly long time, connected to the show, and we've seen each of them multiple times, and yet we barely know anything about them. And this isn't just on Chris Chibnall. This is sort of on Stephen Moffat as well. Even he gave us a sort of blueprint, a general outline for who they were, and I think he had a lot of fun with Osgood. But even she wasn't really developed. She was a bit of I wouldn't say a one-note character, but a two-note character at best. So what would you rather them do? Go back to sort of characters like that and try to save them? Or bring somebody like Mel in, who, whether she's been in the show before, but it was somebody fresh to newer viewers, and kind of just offer somebody different in a similar role with a different personality and actually write them properly? I think I'd rather see Mel or someone like her potentially than them trying to retrieve those two characters. We've got so much sort of baggage with them that already, and I kind of like Gemma Redgrave. I know she's going to be in them too.
Yeah.
But do you see what I'm saying? She's such a sort of, she's so dour at the character as exists, whereas kind of Mel is sort of an antidote to that.
Yeah, no,
Sorry, go ahead.
I think Kate has become very dour. I think if you look at her when she first got introduced, she's definitely got a bit more personality. Those first couple of episodes, she's a bit more sort of, I don't want to, she just feels more alive. Whereas it's I feel like personally, the more she was in the show, the more she got bogged down with being the head of unit and having to almost be that leader type and almost trying to be her dad a bit. And then she sort of became less of a personality.
I think, right, if you look at the relationship between Brigadier and, say, John Pertwee, Doctor, right, there was a relationship there. I mean, they argued, they obviously liked each other and they respected each other. They argued, they fought, they fought against creatures. They came against some crazy things. But that's what they haven't done with what's her name again? Can't remember.
Kate.
With Kate, they haven't done that with her because she's been put in the background. She turns up when and spews out the plot of the script, and
she sort of wags her finger and does a bit like M in a Bond film.
Yeah, if
that's
they're
what I
going to
mean.
bring
It's
her
like
on, they need to interact. She needs to interact with the Doctor so we can get to know her too. Just like the Brigadier, right?
When she came on, you saw her actually talk to the Doctor about her dad. And that was lovely, some of that material she had. Yeah. So you could see her, and you could almost see what I love, because I think her first one was a Matt episode, and you could see her almost trying to understand, right, I know you as the Doctor because of my dad, but I don't know you. And you could see her almost trying to learn who the Doctor was, and it was lovely. But then, like I said, after they'd done that, it was just like, oh, we need Kate here just so she can be commanding and be the head of unit. That was it. So yeah, I think honestly, we've had plenty.
Need to interact. She's getting her own show apparently. She needs to interact with the Doctor.
I wouldn't say that Kate Stewart's unsalvageable, but I think that she has to occupy a different space now.
Yeah.
And that the show needs to sort of get. I think it needs to get bigger as regards scope and production values and things like that. But I also think it needs to get, at the same time, cozier and for relationships to feel real again. Interpersonal relationships, and so to bring in, and you think about back to Sarah Jane, they'd got that instantly with Liz Sladen when they brought her back into it, and I think that even though Mel was arguably nowhere near as popular as Sarah Jane, I think that this actress at this time in her life and her career, the time could be just about right. Russell T Davies and Scott Hancock, they both worked on the Mind of the Hodiak story for Big Finish last year. The Mind of the Hodiak was Russell T Davies' original script that he submitted to Doctor Who back in the mid-80s when Bonnie Langford was originally on the show. So he sent it into Andrew Cartmel. I think it was to Eric Sayward, actually. I think it was that long ago. And it went a certain way, and then it was abandoned. He was a very inexperienced young writer then. So them maybe working on that, because Scott Hancock is also a script editor on the new series of Doctor Who as well. So maybe they formed an attachment with the character. They liked working with Bonnie, which I think you could say, well, that's neither here nor there. But maybe there was just the right kind of role in this script that Mel would just drop into very, very nicely. I suppose we're going to find out in due course. But what you said earlier on, in fact, both of you mentioned Big Finish and Charlotte, and you mentioned, Ian, how Bonnie had been let down in the past. I think everybody agrees, including Sylvester McCoy. We've got this brand new quote from Sylvester McCoy today. He gave this interview to the Radio Times exclusively. And he said, how wonderful to hear Bonnie is coming back. I'm sure she won't mind my stating when she was with me, the production underused Bonnie. She has shined brightly since in the Big Finish story she recorded with Colin and I. How brilliant it will be for us all to see how bright, beautiful Bonnie can be.
Yeah, but he's got to say that, though, hasn't he? He's got to
well,
say.
He's
what else is he going to say?
No,
do you know what I mean? So I don't know.
Well, yeah,
I'm sure it's all from his heart. I'm sure of it. I'm just joking.
Well, he's agreeing with you. You know, this is something that is universally accepted, universally felt.
Yeah.
That there's potential here for all that. I'm sure that classic Doctor Who fans, would they rather have seen Mel Bush played by Bonnie Langford back, or Leela played by Louise Jameson? I think it's pretty clear, obvious. Leela's a far more popular character, so more people would have probably wanted to see her.
They probably did approach her, you know.
But would there have been the scope for what they need to tell this particular story over the next 12 months for a character like Leela or like Zoe?
You know what, Dan?
Maybe
Russell T is taken the original story that he's given to Big Finish, and he originally and actually developed it a bit better for this new Doctor. Could be that as well, you know. Maybe you thought, do you know what, that idea was so good and they treated that idea so badly, I'm going to shove it in their face and put it in this new Doctor Who.
I was just thinking, we have had her as Mel back before now, and it was in one of the Blu-ray trailers.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that was good fun, wasn't it?
And that was quite good fun. It was like a Dragon's Den mock up thing, and she was like her business. And that was quite a fun little trailer. And even in that little bit, it wasn't a lot to see.
Yeah.
But even then, you could see, you could see that was Mel. And I know she's with Ncuti, so we'll have to see what chemistry they have, which I'm I'm also very intrigued by, because that's another thing I love when these companions come back, to see a different energy with a different Doctor. But you could just see in that little trailer because Sylvester came on right near the end, and you could just see her face light up, be like, Doctor, it's you. So that's what also I love. You could tell she's never left the character, and she's never sort of wanted to leave it, which I think will just be good, because you'd think that would mean whatever Russell has given her, she will want to do it, and she'll have the enthusiasm and the want to sort of sink her teeth into it.
Well, Doctor Who, as much as I have no doubt that Doctor Who frustrated her, and I know that it was down to the wire on whether she was going to continue with it or not. I think her agent only ever intended for her to be on the show for a year. I mean, like I said, the wait in between her being cast and announced in those Peter Pan shots that we saw earlier on, the wait from those until her actually appearing on screen was longer than the time she was actually on screen as the current Doctor Who companion. She was there for just those 20 episodes, the equivalent of 6 stories, over just over a year, and that was that. And yet her presence then did kind of damage the show, but it didn't damage Bonnie Langford's career at all. She went straight back into theatre, more television. She did Chicago Cats, all those big shows in the West End and on Broadway. And she's not even 60 yet. It's incredible the things that this woman has done in her career. I've got a quote from her here, Ian. She says, I am absolutely thrilled to be bringing Melanie Bush back, to be part of the exceptional cast, crew and production team led by the force of nature, that is Russell T Davies. It's a career highlight. I'm so privileged and proud to have been a member of the Doctor Who family since the classic era, and to be included in the new generation is phenomenal.
I you know,
nice quote.
What you call it? I'm happy for her. You know, she's not a bad person and stuff like that. But I still, personally, though, I still think they're going in the wrong direction with this new Doctor Who. I really see no point in bringing back Melanie Bush at all in this. I don't understand why they're not creating something new. You know, they're not talking about monsters and stuff. But then again, I've said all this before. I'm very much in Simon's camp,
my feeling. They can only show you that they've only told us about this because she was on location. All the other stuff they can't.
I know that. I'm happy for her though, and I'm happy for, you know, because when you reach a certain age, people don't want to use you anymore. And plus, she was very much a theatre musical person, wasn't she, when she was in her prime? So she was done a lot of stage stuff. She did Peter Pan. She done loads and loads and loads of stuff. Physical stuff, right? That's why you look at her. She's not overweight or anything like that at this moment in time.
Oh, she's still
very fit
as well.
Very fit, yeah. So I'm just saying that is who she is. You know, what can anyone say? You know, so but you know, good luck to her and all that.
Back in the 80s, she was seen gyrating around on Saturday night television with Wayne Sleep on the Hot Shoe Show. I don't know if you remember that show, Ian.
Yes.
Lots of silly dance routines and singing, dancing, and it used to tire me out, Charlotte, just watching her. But this was the kind of character that she was, though. I mean, and yet she was still 18, 19 years old, but the consummate professional. And I wouldn't say that television history has forgotten her, but it did kind of pigeonhole her. But she never let that stand in her way, almost public perception of her. I think it did bother her a little bit in the 1990s because she did go through a phase where she kind of tried to sex herself up and started wearing leather jackets and doing sort of raunchy photo shoots for magazines and things for Sunday newspapers and that. But generally speaking, I think she's always been seen as the child star we've all watched grow up, and that ball of energy. And
I think that's so because she's got such a distinctive look, hasn't she? Like the red hair, the frizziness at that time. Like you said, her almost like so thin, so wild.
Kicked her in the face.
Everything about her. And I think that
she was
so
tiny.
Yeah, she stood out for lots of reasons.
But she's from a generation where on TV, this kind of stuff was on TV Saturday nights, Friday evenings, you know, and that's the generation that she's come from. So she's extremely lucky to be called back into Doctor Who to actually, you know, actually perform as an actor. You know, because as far as I can remember of her history, all she did was stuff like this, a lot of stuff like this for TV and for stage and stuff like that. And that was her living.
I think after Just William and Bugsy Malone, Just William, and the Wombles film that she was in, which I've totally forgotten about.
Yeah.
I'd love to get Bernard Cribbins is in that as well, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
And Jim Dale. I'm going to have to try and get hold of that. So there was those things, but I think after that, it could be that the Violet Elizabeth Bott thing from Just William hung over her a little bit too much, and so she did all this kind of stuff. She did the musical theatre. She presented as well. She presented the Saturday show, Saturday morning TV on both ITV and then on the BBC as well, the Saturday morning picture show with Mark Curry. She did that too. So I think she was I think she was just trying. At the time, it seemed like she was struggling to find a place, but I think she was just trying out loads of stuff because she was still very young and she could. People wanted to have her on.
Yeah, I think she knew though. She knew her place was you know, dancing and singing and stuff like that. It was what do you call that again, Dan?
A hot shoe show.
No, I know the show, but what do you call that kind of entertainment in those days?
Like cabaret,
cabaret kind of, variety. That's it, variety. She was very much suited for variety, and there was a lot of variety shows in those days, wasn't there, Dan? You know, like as I said, Friday nights, you know, Saturday
Sunday night at the London Palladium.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, all that sort of stuff. You'd got Good Old Days. You'd got, I mean, there were still minstrels on British television until 1978, 79. That, you know,
crazy.
All sorts of things that, harker back to musical theatre, to variety and musical and all those kinds of things. And that
at school,
and stage school kids,
about, right? Yeah. Do you remember that, Dan? We used to talk about when Just William came out on TV at school. Everybody used to say that girl's awful, you know. And they used to say, they used to quote the words, didn't they? Screamer, screamer, screamer.
I know that.
Yeah,
I'll be honest with you. That show, it's either I think I was either a little too young for it, or it passed me by. It was 1978, so I was about to start school. I was pretty tiny. Okay. And it was around the time where my mother decided what was going to be on TV. So it was and it was on ITV, I think, as well. And I was pretty much
I wonder what happened to the guy who played Just William. She kind of, you know, went from strength to strength at a point, didn't she? And then the guy, I don't know what happened to the guy who played who played William. I don't know what happened to him, but you know, she, as I said, I think
he's drinking a bottle of medicine in the doorway of Iceland somewhere. Yeah, could be. We've got a quote from Russell T Davies as well. He says, where's my quote from Russell T Davies? Here it is. He says, "Open the doors wide because Bonnie's back. What an honour, delight and hoot to welcome back the character of Melanie after too long away." And this isn't just a cameo. Bonnie is right in the thick of the action, battling monsters and chaos and cliffhangers, right at the Doctor's side, just like always. That's actually quite a measured quote from Russell T Davies by his standards. He's not saying, "This is the biggest return ever."
Say, there's not as many. What does Simon say? I'm trying to think of how he phrases it. Like Russellisms of "it's the bestest thing ever," like you said. Yeah, it's quite pleasant. And Bonnie too. I mean, this actually went down really, really well on social media, and for the most part, it was warmly received, Ian. Which at the time I just accepted because I'm largely very happy about this. So I just accepted it. And then I remembered how much of a relief it was, and the contrast, how much of a relief it was for me, because I heaved a sigh when Melanie left the show back in 1987 to be replaced by Sophie Aldred as Ace. And yet all these years later, I don't mind this at all. And Bonnie saw that people were generally pretty up for this, and said thank you for all the love and kisses.
She's going to be different, isn't she? She's not going to be the same character that obviously I mean, I hope she's going to be written differently. I mean, she's a woman of age now, you know, so in fact she's the same age as me. Good God, that's crazy. But yeah, so yeah, she's the same age as me. You know, she's a woman of age, so you know, obviously they're going to be writing to that strength, aren't they? So you know, it'd be you know, as I said, I don't really see the point, but you know, if it makes fans happy, I guess it's a good thing, I guess. But you know,
I tell you what would be fun as well, and this is just something also I've always loved in past episodes, if she sort of has a bit of a chat with Ruby and sort of takes her under her wing a bit.
That's just copying. That's just copying the one with, the one that School Reunion, because that's the same thing that happened in School Reunion, isn't it?
Well, though, to be fair, they fought at first. Rose and Sarah did not get on.
Yeah, but
they were a bit catty with each other.
I did like that. Did you like that episode, Dan? School Reunion? I thought it was really good.
Adored it.
Because I like the idea that she's like, you left me. And you didn't even put me in you put me in Scotland. Was it Scotland rather than, Croydon and stuff like that? I like that idea. And I like the idea that she'd grown up and she'd had her own life, but she was still expecting the Doctor to come back. And it was the first inkling to realizing what happened to the companions when the Doctor leaves them, in their lives. What happens to them? Is it a sad affair? Are they grateful for what they've experienced with the Doctor, or are they unhappy because they're not experiencing it anymore? Do you know what I mean? That kind of thing. And it all brought that to a head in School Reunion, which I thought was quite clever. And is he going to repeat himself with this again when she meets Ruby and stuff? I don't know.
I think obviously I hope we find out, because there's no point in bringing back old characters if they're not going to develop them. And he'll be aware that we will have those questions, just like Ian's described. That won't have completely passed Russell by. It's a question of how he addresses it and how he opens it up without bogging down any.
Yeah, but you just said something, Dan. Sorry, Charlotte. You just said something. She went off with Glitz, right? So that's the question. What happened to her? How come she's back on Earth?
Yeah, there's a whole story to tell.
Sorry, Charlotte. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say, I know what you mean. Yeah, of course, there will be some repeat if that happens, but you'll know this as working in the industry. You can have a similar idea, but the actual execution can be very different.
Yeah, I hope so.
That's what I'm hoping. Even though I said I'd love to have a little bit of stuff with Ruby. Like I said, I don't want an exact repeat of what happened in School Reunion, or even with Jo Grant, because I know it wasn't with a Doctor, because she met Sarah Jane's sort of kids, and same idea but different. That's what I mean. It would be interesting to see. Mel's had a lot of life experiences, so even if it's just to sort of impart some of her life experiences, if nothing else, because Ruby, from what we've seen so far, she looks very sort of down to earth, modern day companion again. Yeah. So that's very different to what Mel's background was, with the space elements and, like you said, where we left her, and with the computer stuff. That's what I mean. It can be different, but I'd like to see a little bit of interaction in some way.
Well, maybe when she comes back to Earth, she has all that knowledge that she had when she was traveling around with Glitz and stuff like that. Maybe she can maybe that's the reason why Unit hired her, because she has the knowledge of other things, other worlds. I don't know. That could be a starting point, bringing her back, I guess. I don't know.
I think if I put I'm glad you can see that. I mean, I think I wouldn't say endless, but I think there's a unique set. I think there's a unique set of possibilities with this character. Yeah. Very unique to her. And if I put aside the fact that Bonnie Langford is a kind of public figure, I wouldn't say a national treasure. But to be fair, she's not far off. So there's still that element to her. But it's the possibilities for a character, as you said, Ian, somebody who is older, who is into middle age, who maybe has an eye on retiring, or people of her age would have an eye on retirement, and here she is sort of thrust into whatever she's going to be thrust into. Personally, I am interested in what you described there, Charlotte, about her interaction with Millie as Ruby, because that's never not affecting, is it? Because it's like people looking into. It's like that mirror, or a magical mirror in something like Harry Potter, where you look into the mirror and you see yourself in the future or yourself in the past. It's got that kind of angle to it. But for me, I'd want to see her interacting with the Doctor, and on a scientific kind of level. In the same way, I mean, poor Caroline John, obviously she passed away. I think Liz Shaw is a kind of similar character. She was a scientific advisor, expert then.
Yeah. She was.
They didn't really know how to write that character. They tried, but they didn't know how to hit the right balance with her, and they didn't know how to hit the balance with Melanie either. They were sort of inversions of the same problem. So here, I think we could have something. I think this could be something quite nice, again, with the proviso that those scripts are fit for purpose, that they've cast Ncuti well. As I say, I'm generally pretty up for Ncuti's Doctor, but I haven't seen him, so I don't know whether he's been cast well or not. Not the faintest idea. So there's a lot hanging in the air with this. But I do know how I feel about her. And in my view, this is tremendous news.
Do you know,
after a slurry, Ian, we've complained, haven't we? From Doomsday to Jinx Monsoon to that bloke from that, what's
Glee.
it called? Glee.
Yeah.
All these people who Russell is so excited about and fans couldn't give a shiny shite about. This is something that we can feel, that we have an actual reaction and connection to. And
can I ask a question, right? So the question's going to be, when she does meet up with the Ncuti Doctor, is she going to say, "Oh, you're black"? See, this is the question that keeps hanging over my head when other people from Classic or people that knows the Doctor,
I would guess because she was in that support group and they talked about the Doctor being female, that Ncuti being black wouldn't really be a major thing.
But you still would, wouldn't you? It's still like, for instance, if I met you yesterday, so if I met you tomorrow and you were black, that'd be the first question.
Yeah, but I'm not an alien.
Sure.
I'm not an alien who can physically change my body.
On Type 40 Extra, Charlotte Shields is not an alien. I repeat, not an alien. You heard it here first.
But you would ask the question, or you would. It's like the that always avoided that. With the very little I saw of the Jodie era, they always avoided that. Nobody ever said, you know, like, how comes you're a woman, or like, what happened? You know what I mean? Stuff like, nobody ever said that. And I think if they do it with this one, then I'm going to go, oh, okay, whatever.
They did with the gender swap thing. Again, I don't really want to keep going over old ground, but they did with the gender swap thing. We had Stephen Fry's terrible character who remarked upon it. People who bumped into her did kind of remark upon it.
I think Kate did once.
Yeah. But with this,
I never went that far.
With this, bear in mind, she travelled with 2 doctors before. She knows about regeneration.
That's what I'm trying to get at. She knows the Doctor changes physically, so I don't think it would be a...
If a guy can change, my view of it is, to come back to, I know what is a sticking point between myself and Ian, my thing with it is, she's seen the Doctor change the colour of his hair, his height. I don't see how the colour of his skin would be any different and why she'd find that peculiar at all, myself.
Well, of course you would find it peculiar, because he changed from a white man to a white man. So why wouldn't you question? Why wouldn't you like, oh my God, you're black? And just one line, you know. If she doesn't say that, then I think it's really odd. Hopefully she'll say it. Hopefully. So of course you'd question it. You know, you would. It doesn't matter if it's an alien or not. You, as I said, she saw him go from Colin to Sylvester. But what Dan's saying is she saw a big, I know what you mean, she saw 2 sort of same skin colour blokes, but they were very different blokes to look at. Like Colin's really tall, quite a little bit larger. I'll be nice, a little bit larger at that time. Yeah,
like
a lot more smaller.
So they were quite big physical changes.
Yeah, no, but this is a big change. Come on, this is it is a big change. But anyway, I mean, if they ignore it, it's fine.
Ian, sorry to disagree with you again, mate. I know this is a sticking point, but I think that this being a big change isn't objective. I think it's a subjective opinion, depending on how you view the character.
It's as I said, right? That's the question I would ask if the person was an alien. Okay, you've changed your color of your skin. Oh, okay. That's a bit odd. I would find it odd. But then that's just me, right?
I'd be more... looking at Mel and her relationship to the Doctor, I mean, that's just how I see the character. I don't view the skin color as a thing. But I would perhaps wonder if Mel would notice that he doesn't dress the way that he used to, by all accounts, for what we see you do. But that's probably something to come for another time. Again, that's particular to how I view the character. That I don't view the sort of innate characteristics as people's colour of skin, colour of hair, height, colour of their eyes. I don't view those as being a thing. But if the Doctor doesn't behave like the Doctor, dress like the Doctor, have that balance of being outwardly eccentric, but in a contained intelligence, a burning intelligence, if all those things aren't there, to me, that's much more important. Charlotte. I probably hope that's coming across.
Yeah, no, I think I've always said I see the Doctor as a body that shares a soul. And that's what I think each companion in the past, they see the soul. They see what you said, the personality traits, the sort of eccentric bits that we see the Doctor, that we can watch this show, which technically shares 12 actors at this point, technically has that many different people in the role. And we can go, no, they're the Doctor, because they've got that shared trait, that shared sort of doctorness, to put it sort of a little bit bluntly.
Doctorness. Hashtag Doctorness. Who will be back next?
Yeah, sure.
I'm hoping for the Mandrels myself. My vote is for them. You never know. You never. Come on, Russell. Give us a Mandrel. Give us a Mandrel or two, maybe even three. I don't. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Okay. So that's So where are we? Yes. So a full new Doctor Who series starring Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor with Millie Gibson as Ruby Sunday that debuts in 2024. Filming is continuing for the time being throughout the summer with Bonnie Langford there as Melanie Bush. Welcome back, Bonnie. Welcome back, Bonnie. Yeah, we don't know exactly when, though. When are we going to see her first? Could it be in the 60th anniversary specials that we've got coming up later this year, starring David Tennant and Catherine Tate, another famous Ginge? Could they be doubling up with Bonnie and Catherine in the same specials? Let us know what you think of that down below in the comment section, your views. Do you want that? And what do you think about the return of both Mel and Bonnie? Are you a survivor of the 80s, of the original era? Do you remember those the teasing in the playground when Bonnie was originally in it? And are those scars? Are they still? Have they gone deep? Can you not forget? or are you pretty open to this? I personally believe that Bonnie and Mel are back in from the cold. It took decades, but it absolutely has happened. And I think this is a good thing. Like I say, I think this is reassuring for people that they are getting in talented people in characters that are going to make us feel something. It's not waving a magic wand. Everything's not going to be all right simply because Bonnie Langford's on the show again. I know that. But yeah, generally speaking, it's a thumbs up from me. Let us know what you think of it in the comments section. How about you, Charlotte? Where do you sit with this? Because obviously you didn't grow up with Bonnie Langford or Mel.
No, I think I agree. We've had some really bad announcements, and I've also been complaining that I felt like the show's not been being celebrated enough, that it's this storied thing with lots of characters from the past. So I like the fact that Russell is tapping into one, and like you said, I think it's one who has a lot of potential, has a lot of stuff still on the table we don't know about, whereas there's other companions that I think have pretty much their stories have been told. So I'd rather he leave those and actually mine one that's still got a lot of potential, and I think Mel has. And I think also whenever I've seen Bonnie do press stuff, whether it's Big Finish or just general Doctor Who, she's lovely. And I think the more people we can have promoting this as well that are positive,
yeah,
and aren't all about politics, like actually push. I've never seen myself. Bonnie do the whole pushing her own agenda or politics. I've just seen her talk about the show and talk about her love for the show. And I think the more we can have that versus other certain characters, which Russell is bringing on, I'd rather have Bonnie. So I'm quite happy.
She seems like a normal person. Ian, have we convinced you? Yeah, we got a mega groan when you came on. No, so have you warmed to it a little?
No, yeah, I like Bonnie Langford. I actually met her, as you know. She's a nice person. Then again, it was about 15 years ago. But she's a nice person. I'm happy for her. But I don't see the point of bringing back this character at all in Doctor Who. As I've stated before, none of the vibes that I'm getting from this version of Doctor Who is warming to me at all. And I just hope, with fingers crossed, again, I'm in Simon's camp. Hope, fingers crossed, that I am completely and utterly wrong about Ncuti, and Doctor Who's going to come back with a vengeance, and we're all going to be talking about how great the episodes are. Don't take the mickey out of John, right? Because he's my favourite Doctor.
Just as he is, like, I'm hoping it's great. What do you put on screen?
Yeah, exactly. What is wrong with you?
another redhead appearing in Doctor Who there. Yeah, so let us know what you think. Do you agree with Ian? Do you agree with what Ian's saying there? Are you holding your counsel until we actually see this, or are you dead against the whole idea? Are you with me? Do you think it's generally speaking quite an upbeat thing and a bit of a relief after months of teeth gnashing announcements and what WTF moments. We'd love to know what you think of it all. But I think before we disappear, we should look at a pretty picture, because this has been sent in to us by our friend. This is from the Thin King, and it's a lovely picture there of Bonnie Langford as Mel, with a very kind of 80s background and the unit emblem there.
Very nice.
In the top left-hand corner there. Nice job from the Thin King. He's got his own style developing, hasn't he?
Yeah, it does.
I love the light, how the light's hitting her hair. That's gorgeous.
It does look like it's been done by AI, though.
I think, well, it's clearly digital art, isn't it? I don't know how he's working, but I think it does. You can tell, it is her. It captures her quite nicely, and yeah, I'd say this is a romanticized sort of Disney-ish look. But I do kind of like this, particularly the 80s patterns behind it.
Yeah, very good. I like it.
Good stuff.
Sure,
okay, she'd be bang up for that. So thank you, Thin King, for sending in that one. And let's put it back up. Yeah, so you can go and find the Thin King. He puts up artwork on Twitter, so go and give him a follow and tell him that Type 40 sent you. Okay. I think that about covers it. What have I got to remind them of? Yes, so lots more coming on the channel here and on the podcast. Check out the videos while you're here, by all means. Type 40 itself, the Type 40 podcast, like this episode where we talk to the legendary Doctor Who artist Jeff Cummins. I say Doctor Who artist. This man has done it all: magazine covers, album covers, and for artists and bands that you've heard of. An incredible career and a charming man. You can find mine and Simon's interview with him there in Type 40. Type 40 Live, of course, our live stream magazine format show every week, including the Type 40 Live moments there. It was one of the Diamond Anniversary shows that we're doing, where we all shared our top Doctor Who moments. And here on Type 40 Extra, of course, where pretty much anything goes, whether it's an hour on a particular subject like we've done this time, could be a shorter video, like Ian's little video diary there, mate, from round at MCM Comic Con a couple of weeks ago. That was a lot of fun. Thanks again for that.
No worries.
It was a belter. And if you want more of it, you know what you've got to do. Please like this video while you're at it. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. Check that you're still subscribed, because we know what they got to do. And ring the cluster bell to get the notifications about what we're doing next and when we're doing it. Yeah, the anniversary year is gathering pace. Lots more coming up in the next few days here on the channel, podcasts and live streams and all sorts of other things. So we want to know your views too about the return of Bonnie Langford and the return of Mel. Get those comments down below. And yeah, I think that's about it, everybody. We always have the time, if you have the space here at Type 40. There's room for Mel, room for Bonnie Langford. Thanks, Ian. Thanks, Charlotte, for joining me on this one.
No worries.
Thank you.
And we'll speak to you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.